Just know there will be spoilers for this. It has been 19 years since the last original 2D Metroid, although I gotta be honest here, I didn't play it. The only Metroid game that I did play until completion is Metroid Samus Returned in 2017. This was a remake of the 1991 Game Boy game, Metroid 2 Return to Samus. As such, I'm not a longtime fan or anything like that. I think it's very important to give a point of view for a game like this, because many reviews on this site will have the reviewers have been waiting ages for this game. I picked it up because I thought it looked cool, and I've always respected the Metroid series. Even though it doesn't match the sales numbers of Mario, Zelda, or Pokemon, many consider it as one of Nintendo's big gun franchises, and I really want to try it out, and Dread had the perfect opportunity to do so. Metroid Dread is Samus trying to return to her mothership while being stranded on an unfamiliar planet. Along the way, she can interact with the computerized Adam Malkovich. He will tell her where to go next, what to be aware of, what power-ups she is missing. Soon after arriving at the planet initially, she comes in contact with a robot that is capable of piercing her armor, killing her immediately. Luckily for her, Samus can regain specific abilities after killing the central units that will enable her to kill these robots, or EMMIs as they're called. After an EMMI has been killed, she will lose access to her Mega Cannon again. Right out of the gate! I actually didn't like this game too much. I thought that the game was very difficult at first, and not exactly in the best way. I would consistently die to EMMIs, as well as standard enemies. I can't tell you how many times I saw this beautiful game over screen. Despite its fairly linear structure, I sometimes got lost as well. As the game went on though, it actually got easier and more enjoyable. Samus gains fun and amazing powers in the game, making both combat and exploration more enjoyable. There's also the fact that she can melee enemies, which can help defeat them. If an enemy charges at Samus with a flash of white, Samus can retaliate and get health and missiles after defeating them. The exploration was actually pretty frustrating at first too. The number of times I saw a little passage that was one block above the floor was annoying as hell. If the passage was on the floor, Samus could just slide right underneath it, no problem. However, if the passage is off the floor, Samus will need to go into her Morph Ball form. The Morph Ball is unlocked pretty late in the game, so this was annoying early on. The other thing that I wasn't really too big of a fan of, and I know that if I was a bigger content creator I'd get a lot of hate for this, but I honestly didn't really like the EMMI sections. I know it's because I'm just bad at them really. But I've seen this damn game over screen 30 times from EMMIs alone. Whenever one of these sections started, I always sighed. I would get stuck at these for literal hours, especially screw the speedy EMMI. I thought I would be in the clear just for it to go Mach 7 and kill my ass. When touched, Samus has the chance to break out of it with a melee attack. I got pretty decent at it because I got caught numerous times, but the timing changes per EMMI. There are 7 EMMI total. The game mostly revolves around Samus exploring the planet, trying to get her powers back. I want to go over these first because the power-ups in this game are great. The Y-beam lets Samus shoot 3 charge shots at the same time. As the game progresses, the actual shots get more powerful. It eventually ends up being able to go through the walls too. The Phantom Cloak allows Samus to become invisible. This will allow her to escape the EMMI's scanning ray, as well as open certain doors. The Morph Ball will allow Samus to fit into tight cracks, as well as drop 3 kinds of bombs. There are the standard bombs, then the cross bombs with a bigger blast effect, and then finally, the Power Bomb will clear virtually everything on the screen. It comes at the end of the game, but it's great fun to just let it rip and watch everything on the screen die. Samus will eventually unlock the Screw Attack, which will decimate almost everything she touches while jumping. Samus has her trusty missiles that get upgraded a couple times throughout the game as well. That's most of the combat upgrades, but Samus also gets abilities that help her move around the map as well. My favorite upgrade in the game might have to be the Flash Shift. This will give Samus a boost forward and can be used up to 3 times before it needs to get recharged. This is so much fun to use in the sense of combat and exploration. It's needed to make certain far jumps, and the extra speed makes getting around the map easier. In combat, it can be used to dodge an attack at the last second. The Spider Magnet can be used to cling onto blue walls and sliders. The Grapple Beam can be used to grab onto these blue surfaces from a distance. The Spin Boost will allow Samus to double jump. Meanwhile, the Gravity Suit will allow Samus to jump multiple times, as well as allow Samus to traverse lava, the cold, and water freely. The Pulse Radar will allow Samus to easily seek out blocks that can be destroyed, which in turn can help the player find some items or a new pathway. Another thing that I really liked about Metroid Dread was the boss fights. Some of these have a creative way of defeating the bosses. The fight against Drogaiga has Samus draining the water so that she can slide across a grapple beam platform at the ceiling. Who can forget the epic battle against Kraid? I love how he's all chained up to the wall, but still tries his best to defeat Samus. Several Chozo soldiers will periodically stop Samus throughout the game to try to stop her in her tracks. The final boss fight against Dread Raven Beak, this was really epic and had several stages that Samus has to go through before he goes down. However, it all leads up to a great moment that is even more epic than the boss fight itself. Samus' Metroid DNA gets fully awakened. Because of this, she receives cool green armor, as well as the Hyper Cannon. With this new upgrade, she can finally take down Ravenbeak X for good. Samus then has 3 minutes to get to her mothership before the planet explodes. I think this was a near-perfect way to end the game. It has that epic, grand, final stand moment. You know what I mean? Depending on how many items the player has managed to collect, portraits based on the previous games will be unlocked. In order to get all the portraits, the player must play through the game again on hard mode. I personally didn't do that as the release schedule is just packed at the moment, but I plan on going back and beating it again someday. I'll probably just dip in on hard mode to get everything in the game. To my knowledge, the only big differences are enemies do more damage, Samus has less health overall, less ammo can be carried at once, and additional portraits can be unlocked. Honestly, though, I'm mostly here for the gameplay, and I don't have much else to say. The game left a good impression on me, but a vague one at the same time, if that makes any sense. I really enjoyed what I played, so much that I'm thinking about purchasing Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion on the Wii U Virtual Console. I have Metroid Prime Trilogy downloaded on the Wii U, as well as Super Metroid on my SNES Classic. I'm starting to get Metroid fever, and I want to hop into these games when the release schedule dies down a bit. That's not to mention that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out eventually. I'm super hyped for that as well. So why don't I have much more to say about Metroid Dread? I mean, I created like half-hour videos for Banjo-Tooie and Psychonauts too. I think the biggest thing that I'm behind on is the Metroid lore. Besides Metroid Samus Returns, I've never really played a Metroid game for more than a few hours. Sure, I've played the NES title as well as Super Metroid for a few minutes here and there. But does that really count? From what I gathered from others, Metroid Dread continues that story and drives that lore home. The story in itself is pretty alright, but I didn't find myself on the edge of my seat or anything. I bet that I would have taken the time to dig deeper on the franchise. I would have been more immersed and enjoyed the story a great deal more, overall enjoying the product a great deal more. A game that I'm going to compare it to is Uncharted 4. Since I played Uncharted 1 through 3, I thought that the game was a great and amazing ending to the character Nathan Drake. However, I've seen a lot of people who played Uncharted 4 standalone, like without playing the preceding games, say it's just okay. Granted, they may not like it from an overall gameplay perspective or whatever, but I think that just something is lost when you don't take the time to dig deep on a franchise. Unfortunately, not all Metroid games are playable on one device, so for some, playing preceding games is impossible, or at the very least, very costly. I want to note that even without playing earlier Metroid games, I still like Dread a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite games of the year and all that. I just think I could have gotten more out of it, and wrote a bigger analysis piece if I would have taken the time to dig deep and play the older games as well, but I also wanted to delete those 150 gigabytes of gameplay videos on my hard drive. So that's my brief review of Metroid Dread, the first original 2D Metroid game in 19 years. It's a game that I really liked my 20-hour-ish time with. I liked it enough to want to take a deeper dive into the franchise. I also took the time to 100% the game, as exploring and uncovering items was so much fun. Metroid Dread gets a solid 6 out of 7 for me, and I can't wait to be able to do that deeper dive on the Metroid franchise as a whole, after I'm done with Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX, and Halo Infinite, and Forza 5, and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, and Pokemon Legend Arceus when that comes out. There's just too much to play, man. What a great problem to have.